it's sad to say, but I really do think that My Hero Academia has fallen off, and it can be studied. And I kind of want to talk about why I would even make that statement, because there's been a lot that's been going on within the My Hero Academia manga since the last time I talked about it, to the whole Toga fight and all that with Ochiko, which had its conclusion, to even getting to see All Might going up against All for One pretty much at his prime, and getting to see a conclusion of a fight that has just been built up for so long, and seeing All Might step up to the plate, and I mean, he legitimately says, I am here once again. It is an absolute jaw-dropping moment for the manga, and to be completely honest, this entire sequence with All Might going up against All for One, Prime All for One at that, is amazing. It legitimately is an amazing, section of chapters within the manga that I have yet to talk about, and when I was sitting down binge reading this, kind of reading all these chapters back to back, I was like, oh my god, like, just like the artwork alone is just, it's so good. And yeah, even Stain appears in this fight to kind of briefly help out All Might, and even with that, it's clearly not enough to bring this man down, and then the final moments, All Might's dragging himself on the ground, you see him, he's lost basically body parts, he's broken, he's shattered, and he's dragging himself over against All for One, and right before, all this happens, we get confirmation when Shigaraki is completely consumed, All for One's psyche within himself, so Shigaraki is in full control, and then we get to see this moment where All Might's like, I am the symbol of peace, but then, All for One breaks him and is like, you're finally at your lowest, and he's frowning and all that, and he's legitimately about to die. It's an incredible sequence of chapters, and you're probably wondering, okay, I'm obviously praising My Hero quite a bit, but why the title? Why did I start off this video saying that? Well, for good reason. Yes, there is people that still do talk about My Hero Academia consistently, but in terms of the overall conversation around the series, it is nowhere near where it should be. Like, you go back 3 years ago, okay, 4 years ago, My Hero Academia was everywhere. Everyone talked about it. It was everywhere. It was the top cosplay for a while. A lot of people love cosplaying Shoto. You couldn't go anywhere without seeing basically My Hero Academia merch and everything. But over the years, it's very clear that My Hero Academia, in terms of popularity, has definitely waned. Or people that read this series just now read it very quietly and just do not straight up talk about the story anymore. And we even had events that canonized the movies, like true straight up moments that said, yeah, the movies within My Hero Academia is canon, like with All Might going over and meeting people and helping with his equipment and stuff to be able to even face All for One. A lot of good stuff here, but nobody is really talking about this, and that's the crazy part, because let me put this in perspective. The fight that took place here within these chapters that had like a start and kind of a conclusion, it is something that everybody, anyone that was a My Hero Academia fan at one point wanted to see. Wanted to see All Might versus All for One and see Prime All for One. It is literally the reversal of the fight that we got towards the beginning of the series with All Might versus All for One, when All for One was using the respirator and needing to breathe and all that, and his face was all messed up. Everybody wanted to see maybe what would have happened if All for One really did have his strength. And getting to see the reversal of the situation is legitimately amazing. It's an incredible, moment in the manga, and this is something, like I said, any fan of My Hero Academia probably was looking forward to. But the fact there has been barely any conversation around this, or a lot of generation of hype and community discussion around it, is legitimately sad. And so, the current state of My Hero Academia is legitimately just depressing, because honestly, the manga has been good. Like, there is some moments, like, if I wanted to be completely blunt here, like, if we're going into the latest chapters, like, I'm just going to show a brief little page here of the chapter, we get to see Bakugo is back. Like, Bakugo is fighting All for One, and I'm just going to be blunt with you, okay? Like, completely blunt. I still do not like that Bakugo is back. I don't. I legitimately think it's awful storytelling. And I know Bakugo is a fan favorite, always the top in the popularity polls. Yes, I understand that. But just the fake outs to the way it was done, it really did do a lot of everlasting damage to My Hero Academia, which kind of can be traced back to why the discussion around the series really has dwindled over the years. Like, let's think about this. The last time really My Hero Academia was like truly the talk of the town, like everybody was talking about it, was when Bakugo apparently died. Yeah, a very significant figure within the community was like, holy crap, like, you know, he died, and it was crazy, it was. But then, like, you know, basically, oh yeah, he's actually alive, they're doing surgery on him, and it's just like, okay, he's alive then. And it's just like, it really diminished, you know, a lot of people's respect for this final arc, because it basically said, oh, not even important characters are really going to die since it's the final arc, and it removed all stakes. It made everybody feel like there was really no stakes at all within the story of My Hero Academia, and to a degree, I still think that is very true, because if we're not even factoring in, you know, the return of Bakugo here with him fighting All for One, we gotta factor in this All Might stuff, which this is what diminishes this entire fight for me, is that, yeah, I do like the meaning behind it, the message of it, but All Might doesn't actually die against All for One. At least, you know, All for One's not gonna be the one to put the end to him. Like, if All Might does die, he's just gonna die from wounds and not getting medical treatment in time. But he's still conscious, he's still awake, he's still watching everything. He's getting to see All for One get defeated right in front of him. Which basically means that All Might is not even dead. Despite being a quirkless man going up against a prime All for One, which, once again, really cool. The fact that All Might did not die, it goes back to that problem, that fundamental problem with, like, what happened with Bakugo, is there feels like there's no stakes, and at this point, if there was a time to kill All for One, or not All for One, All Might, it would be this time. It would be this point in time to kill All Might, but that clearly has not happened. That is not happening within the story, and if it does happen, it's too late. It's way too late to really do it at that point. And I just feel like if there was a way for him to die, it would be straight up to die, literally fighting against his prime nemesis, then both taking each other out. That would have been an incredible conclusion, and I know not everybody might see that way, but it's just like, I don't know, All Might's always had these death flags, and yes, sometimes too many death flags can just basically be the opposite, but I don't know. I don't like the fact that if there is one thing that I've noticed with this final arc, is that Horikoshi is very scared of killing off characters. He is really afraid. He'll put them in situations to where they might die. They look messed up and beaten, but he won't let them die. And not even comic books are like this. Like, yeah, there's comic books like with Disney when they adapt stuff, yeah, characters don't truly die or whatever, they take wounds. But like within comic books, which My Hero Academia is inspired from, characters actually die. Okay, villains and heroes. And the fact that we don't really get major deaths, it's just like, why? And then, like, Gran Torino being alive, too. Just sitting in the hospital, we saw, like, a panel of that. It's just like, yeah, okay, Gran Torino's cool and all, but he should have also died. It's just like, these characters that live, they shouldn't. And I'm not saying death makes a good story. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it adds stakes. It adds this feeling of immense fear that the enemies can be fearful. And I think that's put a real big dampener on this final arc for so many people, which is why people feel like the series has fallen off, or the series legitimately is just trash at this point, because it feels like there's just no point. You know the outcome, which, let's be completely fair here, okay? Pushing aside the no stakes argument, we all know in the end, Izuku or Deku is going to be the #1 hero. Okay, we know this, or Bakugo is probably going to be alongside of him. But, even knowing that, okay, the point is that there should be loss, and, you know, you have to lose something to gain something. And I think that the fact that it's just a cherry on top happy ending completely, nothing really bad fully happens, is just, it kind of diminishes it a little bit. And I think that, you know, having stakes and characters having losses here and there really does make it more emotional for the readers or watchers. And I don't know what's been going on. I mean, it's been a long time now. My Hero has been kind of slipping and going ups and downs and all that, because once again, I want to reinstate what I said at the beginning of the video, is that this whole prime, All for One versus All Might is amazing. It is actually incredible. But there's things that diminish it. And I think that this is another example of just what fans probably have been talking about for a very long time. And the reason why there probably isn't a lot of conversation around it at this point is probably because the people that legitimately were very passionate about it, you know, now just either have dropped it or they just read it out of obligation. Because it's like, oh, I've been reading this for years now, I might as well read it out of obligation, but then they turn to their next series after reading either One Piece or Chainsaw Man, etc., and they just move on to the next manga, but they read this out of a weekly obligation, which is legitimately sad, because I do like My Hero Academia, I am a fan of it, I do, but it does have inherent flaws that is just legitimately, it makes it doo-doo, it does, it's straight up doo-doo, and one thing I do want to point out is that the artwork of these chapters also is just impeccable. Oh! Like, Horikoshi is an artist. Like, an amazing artist. Like, if there is one thing I will just straight up say, regardless of story beats and stuff, I would probably say, in terms of the magazine and Weekly Shonen Jump, Horikoshi is the best at art for weekly manga in the magazine of Shonen Jump right now. And I know that's subjective, but it's just, his quality with his panels and stuff is just insane. And it's crazy that this man is dealing with so many health problems and he's able to produce stuff like this. That is just what blows my mind. But you know what? Tell me your thoughts. Do you think that My Hero Academia has fallen off? Do you think the current state of the manga is very bad or good? I'm legitimately curious. Am I wrong? Am I completely wrong with my assessment? And you think I am? Let me know also in the comments below. I legitimately would like to see anything you guys say. I would like to see the discussion around it. And I'm making this video also to give more discussion to My Hero Academia, because I want more. I do. It saddens me. I don't see more conversation around this All For One versus All Might fight, which is just legitimately an insane fight. That is a built-up fight for hundreds of chapters. So, yeah. But, I'll leave it at that. If you enjoyed the video, do subscribe, leave a like, or leave a dislike if you disagree with me, which is completely fine. I completely understand. And, yeah, love you guys. Chibi out.